One of the best things that we can do to simplify our lives and release the overwhelm of responsibilities is to get our meal planning routine in place. The burden of figuring out what to make for dinner, what to pack for lunch, what to get at the grocery store, and so many other things related to our meal planning can be a lot to deal with. So, a meal planning routine helps make this huge responsibility so much easier to manage, and it gives you the time back throughout your week and gives you back time where you are in a better mood and you're not so stressed about what to put on the dinner table. So, there are four main skills that I'd like to focus on today that you can have in the kitchen that are going to make meal planning easier. Even if you don't have your full meal planning routine in place yet, these four skills are going to help you out.
Are you ready to stop the chaos, the stress, the overwhelm that's filling your life? I'm Renae Matt, and together you and I are going to build simple routines that are going to change your life. When you put these habits into practice, you're going to be able to organize your life in a way where you can be there for your family, pay off your debt, save money, your house can stay organized, you don't have to stress about what's for dinner, and you still get time for yourself. So without further ado, let's get started. Welcome to the Routine Advantage Podcast.
So, if you don't have a full meal planning routine in place, I don't want to scare you away from this episode. It is okay if you don't have your meal planning routine in place. We can still focus on these four skills to make things easier and try and take some of that burden that so many of us feel when it comes to trying to organize our time around meal planning. Because when we are not only just feeding ourselves, if you have a family or a spouse or like kids that you're dealing with, even if you're doing pets, like there are so many things that need to be in place because we are constantly eating. We're eating breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, like potlucks and events that we're going to. There's a lot to figure out. And if we don't have a system in place, it can feel very overwhelming because that kind of consumes everything when we're trying to always figure out what's for dinner, what we need to have on hand, what we need to go pick up. And when you get a meal planning routine in place, what is going to happen is everything is going to come together. You're going to have a very simple and seamless plan for the week. You're going to understand what you need to have done and picked up. Only have to go to the grocery store once that week, and then you'll have everything on hand and you won't have to make any decisions throughout the week, or at least minimal decisions, I should say. But you'll have minimal decisions throughout the week, and all you have to do is look at your plan and just execute the plan, and it makes it so much easier. You don't get crabby throughout the week when you are being asked by others what's for dinner. It's not going to be all on you. If you get to the end of a long day, you don't have to worry about now having to figure out what to make for dinner, to see if anything needs to come out of the freezer, have to go to the grocery store because you don't have everything on hand. Then you take an hour of chopping and cooking and trying to figure everything out, and all of a sudden your dinner time leaks into the later part of the evening. Now your evening is gone. You're tired. You're ready for bed. You're still cleaning up from dinner. Like all of that can go away when you have a plan in place. So if you do not have a meal planning routine in place yet, I would strongly encourage you to get one in place. Start with your morning routine, get that down, and then the second routine in the five foundational routines that we talk about is your meal planning routine because it's such a big one and it takes such a big burden off of you when you can put this into place. So I strongly, strongly encourage it if you have not done so yet. Even if you have not put your meal planning routine into place yet, these four skills that I want to focus on today are still going to help you. But if you have a meal planning routine in place, these are still going to help you even more. So, either way, they're going to help you if you do not have them yet. So, number one is knife skills. You really want to make sure that you have the basic knife skills down so that you can slice, dice, chop, and everything you need to do with a knife, you can do it efficiently and quickly. This is going to make a big difference in meal planning and prepping because you're going to be much quicker at doing all of these things. It's not going to be clumsy. It's not going to be like taking forever if you have these basic knife skills down. So I would encourage you, if you feel a little bit clumsy when it comes to slicing, dicing, or chopping, anything like that, I would encourage you to make sure that you, number one, have a good sharp chef's knife and a good cutting board that's not sliding all over the place. If it is sliding and you don't have, the extra funds right now to get yourself a nice heavy duty cutting board that's staying in place, just wet down like a paper towel and stick it under your cutting board and it will stick to your countertop and then it's not going to be sliding all over the place. So make sure you do that. You have a good knife, you have a cutting board, and you pull up some YouTube tutorials and look up basic knife skills. You can find so many videos out there that are going to teach you this in a way that is going to work well for how you learn. So when you are trying to figure out your basic knife skills, see what is, feeling frustrating. If you are chopping like pepper or watermelon or an onion, like if it's kind of sliding all over the place and everything is cropped in a different size, I guess. Like, when you're looking at that kind of thing, you want things to be chopped at a similar size so that it cooks evenly. So that is kind of important to make sure that you have the skills to chop everything evenly and sizing everything accurately. So when you have these basic knife skills down, it just makes everything feel much smoother. You feel more confident in the kitchen, and it makes things go a lot faster. So that is a huge skill that you want to make sure you have. Number two is to know how to prep vegetables and fruits so that they last longer. I am a huge proponent to making sure that you wash your produce when you get home, right when you get home, so that it doesn't even go in the fridge. Because if you get produce home from the store and it goes right into the refrigerator without being washed or prepped or anything like that, for most people, a lot of that produce is going to go to waste because you forget about it. It feels like it's just too much work to pull it out and clean it and prep it and everything when it comes time to having to make something because you're in a rush, you just don't have the energy to do it. All of those things will come into play. So when you get home from the grocery store, what you really want to do is get your produce in a clean sink full of cold water with like a half to, a full cup of distilled white vinegar, depending on how big your sink is, and just let that produce soak for like 10 minutes and then rinse it off, put it on some clean kitchen towels or paper towels to dry, and then make sure it is prepped and put in the fridge and stored in a proper way to make sure that those are lasting longer. So if it's berries, you want to make sure there's no moisture on them. So let them air dry completely or dab them dry with a paper towel and then store them in the fridge in containers that are supposed to help them last longer, or put them in a mason jar with, a paper towel at the bottom, pop those berries in there and seal them so that they're dry and they're airtight. Those berries are going to last way longer than if you leave them in their, plastic tubs as when you get them from the grocery store. So things like that, knowing how to store produce properly so that they last longer is not only going to save you money because it's not just going to rot in the fridge and you're going to forget about it, but it's also easier to grab and use throughout the week. So if you have, fruit and vegetables already chopped and cleaned and ready to go, you can grab it for snacks or easy additions to your breakfasts or lunches. Maybe you're adding some fresh berries to breakfast, or you are pulling out some, celery and carrots and broccoli and cauliflower and throwing that into lunches with a little bit of dip, something like that. It makes it so easy to just grab those items because they're already prepped and done for you. You made one mess to get it all done, and now it makes the rest of your week so much easier. It's also going to make it easier if you need to add any of those things to your meals for dinner time. So if you've already got some lettuce washed, chopped, and ready to go, you have it for salads. You can put it on burrito bowls. You can put it on tacos. You can have all of your veggies prepped so you can throw them on a sheet pan and get them in the oven to roast for dinners, things like that. It just makes it so much easier. You only have to wash everything and chop it one time when you get it home from the grocery store, and then the rest of your week is so much more it's so much easier. I was gonna say so much more of a breeze, but that doesn't I don't know if that makes sense, but it's just so much easier when you do that one time for the whole week and it doesn't rot in the fridge because you're not forgetting about it. It's all right there ready to go. And then skill number 3 is to know how to mix and match to build a quick meal. And what I mean by this is knowing how to build a very quick meal by mixing and matching a vegetable, a protein, and some sort of fiber filled carbohydrate. So think about when you are going to the grocery store, how many different vegetables you want to have on hand, how many different types of protein you want to have on hand, and how many different types of like a fiber filled carbohydrate. So, this might mean that you're grabbing things like some lettuce and broccoli and cauliflower and some carrots, and those are like your vegetables that you're your basics that you just want to make sure you have those. And then you've got your proteins. Maybe you're grabbing some type of fish, maybe you're grabbing chicken, maybe you're grabbing some ground turkey, and then for a fiber filled carbohydrate, maybe you're doing like sweet potatoes or some butternut squash or just regular russet potatoes. Like, I don't know what it is you want. Maybe you want rice, something or quinoa, something that you can build and you can take these ingredients and then mix and match them to build a meal. So maybe you're doing a chicken burrito bowl and you're using the rice and the chicken and the lettuce, and then you can add different components to it to make full burrito bowl. Or maybe you're putting, some roasted cauliflower in the oven or roasted broccoli, and then you are making some ground turkey uh, meatballs or patties, or you're grilling some chicken and then you're doing some roasted sweet potatoes on the side, or you're doing a full baked potato and things like that, that you can just kind of look at all these different ways you can take vegetables, and then all these different ways you can make proteins, all these different ways you can do some sort of carb, and then you can mix and match them to build very quick and easy meals. When you start having that skill to be able to mix and match those things and think about it that way, it makes it a lot easier to start building more meals and having more creativity and thinking about things in a different way and being able to use similar ingredients in multiple different ways just by knowing how to mix and match them well for really quick meals. And then skill number 4 is to know how to quickly throw together a few family favorites. So this is similar to mixing and matching for meals, but this might be something a little bit different than just having those 3 categories of veggie, protein, and carb. So this is going to be looking more like, if you know your family loves a certain pasta dish, just knowing how to very quickly throw that together, maybe make some substitutions if you don't have everything on hand, but knowing how to do that and being confident in knowing how to do that. Maybe it's making something as simple as tacos or chili, or maybe it's taking all of these really great vegetables and throwing them on a sheet pan and roasting them and then blending them up into some sort of vegetable soup. We love doing this with like tomatoes, or like a couple nights ago, we had a butternut squash that we had gotten from my mom, who had gotten it from my brother, and she had tons of squash from my brother, so but she passed them on to us. So we roasted the butternut squash and we threw in some tomatoes that we had gotten from their garden and some extra like cherry tomatoes that we had on hand that were going to be kind of getting towards their prime. So we needed to use those up. So we just threw everything on a sheet pan with some chopped onions and some garlic and some seasonings and drizzled it with olive oil, all this stuff. So we put that onto a sheet pan, let it roast until all of those veggies were nice and soft, and then we blended it up and we added some chicken stock. We were kind of not doing a ton of dairy right now, so we would have put like some heavy cream or some coconut milk or something in there to make it a little bit more creamy, but instead we were trying to stay away from more dairy, so we ended up taking just like a can of like cannellini beans and putting those in there as like the creaminess, and then just blending it all up into a nice creamy soup. And then we were able to make some grilled sandwiches on the side and just dipped it into the soup, and it was so good. So it was so quick, it was so easy, and it was just a matter of knowing how to just take some different vegetables that will blend well together, putting those on a sheet pan and just making a really quick and easy simple meal with the leftover vegetables that were in our fridge that we needed to use up before we start our next a new week of meal planning. So it's skills like that that you can focus on and have, that you can really hone in and get really comfortable with and confident with, so that it makes meal planning just so much easier easier and less stressful because you know exactly what to do and you're much quicker at putting things together when you've done it several times. So, those are the four things that I would recommend focusing on for the skills that you want to have in the kitchen just to make meal planning easier. You don't have to be really good at everything in the kitchen. Just remember that because if you just start with these basics, practice them until you feel really comfortable with them, you can always go ahead and build from there. So focus on these four things if you aren't feeling really confident in the kitchen, because then when you get these in place and you feel good with them, then you can go ahead and add and bring in more skills. Then you can focus on like learning how to make all the different grains really well and make them nice and fluffy and you're not burning the bottom of the saucepan when you're making, white rice or wild rice or quinoa or something like that. You can focus on like how to season properly and which seasonings pair well together. You can focus on all the different ways to cook vegetables and which ones taste the best when you are, roasting them, steaming them, sautéing them, what temperatures to do those things at. You can focus on how to make a basic dough, whether it's like a bread dough, a pizza dough, maybe it's breadsticks, maybe it's pie crust, like those types of things that you can focus on just making basics and getting really good at the basics. Maybe it's knowing how to make like a flavorful stock or broth with your leftover scraps of vegetables or like the chicken bones when you roast a chicken, things like that, that you can just toss those in your freezer and then pull them out when you're ready to make a nice flavorful stock. Those are all skills that are useful. But if we don't have the basic skills in place first to know how to put things together, those skills aren't going to do us much good. So I would start with the four basics that I just talked about today. And then once you get comfortable, build onto those and see, okay, if I make a lot of soups, maybe the next thing that I can get really comfortable with is making my own stock or broth, learning how to do that. Then once I'm comfortable with that, then add a new thing and see what actually excites you, what is would be most helpful for you to know how to do, go from there. So it doesn't have to be overwhelming. It can be really simple, but what we need to do is just focus on those basics. So I will recap those for you. Before I do, I just want to say if you need to get some ideas on resources when it comes to meal planning, I do have some listed in on my website under resources. If you go to reneematt.com/resources, you will see my recommendation for what we are currently using as a chef's knife. It's not like super, super high end, but it's not very expensive and it works really well for us. You just want to make sure you have a good knife sharpener as well. And if it's working well, like we can keep it sharp and it works really well for all of our needs. So if you have a good chef's knife, I have our cutting board linked on there. It is massive and it is super heavy, but it is absolutely amazing. And I love it so much. It's one of my favorite purchases in our kitchen for sure. But also, like, if you need some produce containers, you can use mason jars, absolutely, and store your produce in mason jars or something like that, or containers that you already have. But if you're looking for actual like produce storage containers that do help your produce last a lot longer, I have those linked as well. They're clear, and so it makes everything nice and pretty because it's all stacked in the fridge and you can see all the fresh produce that's already chopped, ready to go. And it makes it more enticing to actually use it. So if you want to just check out those resources, you absolutely can. You can go to my website at reneematt.com and then go to the resources tab. But I will go ahead and recap those four skills you want in the kitchen for an easier meal planning routine. Even if you don't already have a meal planning routine in place, these four skills will still help you. The number one skill is to know your basic knife skills. Number two is to know how to prep vegetables and fruits to make them last longer. Skill number three is know how to mix and match items for building quick meals. And skill number four is knowing how to quickly throw together a few family favorites. So I hope that this was helpful. If you have some basic skills in the kitchen that you want to share that you think are super important, I would love it if you came into our free Facebook community. You can go to theroutineadvantagecommunity.com and come and join us. You can actually request to join. Make sure you fill out the questions so that we don't, deny you thinking that you're a spam. You need to make sure you're answering questions so we know you're an actual person. And then when you join, you can go ahead and share in there different things that you've learned, things that make meal planning easier for you. And other people will probably comment and share that as well. And we can learn from each other, because when we can learn from each other, that makes such a big difference, knowing that we are not alone in this and we can help each other as we continue to improve and make things easier on ourselves. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode. It was something a little bit different than we normally do, but I hope you enjoyed it. And I will catch you back here on the next episode.
Did you love that episode or learn something useful? If so, would you do me a huge favor? My goal is to grow this podcast and help as many women as I can break free from the overwhelm so they can truly enjoy their life. The best way for me to do this is for you to leave a 5-star written review on your podcast app and to share this episode with a friend or in your Instagram stories. I appreciate you being here. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you on the next episode. Take care.